why the Infiniti QX60 has the world's first safety technology available, like backup collision intervention, which can brake even before you do, to help keep everyone safe.
The Indian River Lagoon is 156 miles long, representing recreation, fishing, and nearly 20,000 Florida jobs. Last summer, because of dumping in Lake Okeechobee, the lagoon turned green and murky.
I call it a disaster. So we pulled together to stop the dumping with record funding that will protect this vital resource and our jobs.
Joe Negron had it in his heart to do what's right for this lagoon.
It's our future.
Joe Negron coming through for us.
If you bought a car in Florida, chances are you paid a dealer fee. Or maybe they call it a documentary fee or a dealer prep fee, maybe a billing and handling fee. It doesn't matter. It's nothing but additional hidden profit to the dealer. Don't pay an extra $999. And what should you do if they try? Leave. Earl Stewart.
Working in 5 minutes to 1 hour and is backed by our 100% happy guarantee. Call now or order online from 1-800-PET-MEDS.
Sunday night, the Weather Channel asks, so you think you'd survive raging rapids? So you think you'd survive Sunday night at 9 on the Weather Channel.
This is Hurricane Central, and Miami has some pretty cool looking weather sometimes, especially if you can capture it in a time lapse. Take a look at this. This is a time lapse here. You're seeing some blue skies, some of the big cumulus clouds starting to form, and then eventually we're going to see this get closer and closer, and we'll see some showers. Beautiful weather in Miami, but this is the time of year where we can get some big-time storms. Hurricanes can be a major concern this time of year. Senior hurricane specialist Brian Norcross explains why Miami is among the top 5 most dangerous hurricane cities.
1992, Hurricane Andrew, a Category 5, just misses downtown Miami and leaves behind devastation, more than any other in U.S. history. Andrew was a wake-up call for South Florida, prompting stronger building codes for all future construction. But even that's not enough to keep this city off our list. And so the Miami-Fort Lauderdale area is number 5 on our list of the top 5 of America's most dangerous hurricane cities. Miami attracts millions of residents and tourists each year. But what makes this place so attractive also makes it vulnerable.
Just the location of Miami-Dade alone makes it susceptible to storms. Storms can come from the Florida Straits, from the Gulf, literally from all sides.
But despite the threat, the population has grown nearly 40% since Andrew. And with 2 million people in the coastal evacuation zones, clearing the area could take days.
When we start talking about the South Florida region, which includes the Keys and Broward County, then we're talking upwards of 70-plus hours to get people to an area of safety.
That means miles of clogged roads, and those who wait till the last minute could face the storm as well.
Wind, rain, storm surge, the possibility of tornadoes. You don't want to be in a metal box on the road when those type of things start to happen.
If a Hurricane Andrew strength storm, but a bit larger in diameter, came through here today, 10 to 15 feet of storm surge would push through here, damaging every building at the bottom floor and sweeping away everything at ground level.
When you talk about 6 feet of water over land, we're essentially saying water that's going to be at the top of your front door. Why would anybody want to stay if we're talking about that kind of water, that kind of impact?
And staying in a high-rise isn't necessarily a good idea either.
Part of the challenge is if that area is still inundated because of storm surge, there's debris in the road, it's still flooded with water. We've seen sand fill up stairways and elevator shafts. And typically people who've made those bad decisions, they all sing the same story. I wish I had listened to the order.
It's been 64 years since a Category 3 or above hurricane has come over downtown Miami. But history tells us another one is coming. In Miami, I'm Brian Norcross, the Weather Channel.
And we shot the throws for the storm special you're about to see here at the top of the hour on Key Biscayne, and I'll tell you, I could not believe the buildup in the financial district of South Miami. So it's huge, as Brian said. All right, let's talk about this Atlantic Basin. Again, we talked about the Pacific in the 15 after block. We're going to focus on the Atlantic here. The good news is both of our storms here are not a threat to land in the Pacific Basin whatsoever. So this was an invest. Now it's an area to watch, and only a small area to watch, if you will. 10% over the next 120 hours here coming up along the what we call the monsoon trough. And you'll really see this stand out with these lines as we kind of show you where they are between the north and the south. Winds coming in out of the south and through here to the north here, converging right in the middle. And along that, we'll find a couple of swirls every now and then. And sometimes little disturbances obviously can break off and become our areas of low pressure and potentially even tropical storms and or hurricanes. So with the current situation that we have along that monsoon trough, it is very, very moist, as we would imagine. The air is converging there, so it's kind of moistening up the entire column. But the rest of the basin, from the main development region, which is here, all right, into the Caribbean, into the East Coast, into the Gulf, we have a lot of dry air, which continues to dominate the picture here. And as you can see, even with these waves moving across, that continues to be the case. So the Atlantic instability is way below average from where it should be, and it's been that way for the entire season, as you can see.
Tonight, a few passing clouds, otherwise generally clear. Chance of a shower or thunderstorm through the evening. Low. Tuesday, thunderstorms developing in the afternoon. High 91. Chance of rain 50%. Here's our 7-day outlook.
I'm Nick Walker, and here's what we're watching throughout this evening. Eastern North Carolina, the Raleigh area, all the way to the shoreline. Seeing severe thunderstorms, could see some hail and damaging winds, heavy rain falling on Raleigh right now. Franklin, Johnson, Wake counties under those warnings here for another 15 minutes or so. And we also have warnings here just to the west of New Bern, Craven, Jones, and Lenore counties under warnings. We'll find ourselves with the possibility of some damaging winds with those storms, as well as with these thunderstorms coming into Georgetown, South Carolina. Charleston, you're in the clear for now. You might see a stray storm move your way. We're certainly seeing storms east of Atlanta right now. DeKalb County all the way over towards southern Gwinnett counties under those warnings for hail and damaging winds as those thunderstorms continue to move eastward. We're also watching Minneapolis, St. Paul, and all of Minnesota into Wisconsin. Numerous severe thunderstorm warnings and flash flooding ongoing here in portions of central Wisconsin. Stay tuned throughout the evening. Right now, our premiere of the 10 worst hurricanes.
Raw, relentless power. Ferocious, roaring winds.
My goodness, the wind has just been insane.
Sledgehammer waves of water. These are the most devastating hurricanes of all time.
A monster storm right now.
Including a Cat 4 buzzsaw that terrorized a storm chaser.
When I was in there, I'm going like, well, this is how I'm going to die.
Others loaded with catastrophic storm surge.
Water is about 160 times more powerful than wind.
And those that altered landscapes forever.
It was a storm that flooded the city, and we weren't prepared for it.
The winds are howling 50, 60 miles per hour.
We're counting down the top 10 worst hurricanes. Since 2004, hurricanes have accounted for over $300 billion in damage in the U.S. Hello, I'm meteorologist Jim Cantori, and I was in all of those and saw the destruction firsthand. Now you're going to get a front row seat to the worst hurricanes imaginable. On average, there's about 6 Atlantic hurricanes that form each year. In both 2004 and 2005, there were 6 that hit the U.S. alone, killing over 2,000 people. We know that tropical terror is far-reaching and can be felt along the entire coastline, from Maine to Texas, packing a 1-2 punch of wind and water.
Hurricanes are Mother Nature's greatest storm. At their peak, they're as strong as almost every tornado, but over a tremendously larger area. So there's so much energy generated in a hurricane that it doesn't compare to anything else that Mother Nature produces.
Along with the strongest tornadoes, the strongest hurricanes rank up there among the most powerful, destructive, deadliest forces of weather.
At any instant, there's enough energy in a hurricane to power the world 200 times over.
Every time one of them happens and somebody lives through it, they think nothing can be worse, and they stay and die.
Our countdown criteria was determined by the Weather Channel's acclaimed hurricane experts and takes into consideration the combination of deadliest, costliest, and most intense storms. We're kicking off our countdown with the strongest hurricane to hit the U.S. since Andrew in 1992. It may have been small in size, but it delivered a knockout blow. At number 10, Charley.
And you see, as bad as it is here, look at this. It's about 4 times as bad up to the north.
Friday, August 13th, 2004. Hurricane Charley, a Cat 4 mighty might, blasts the southwest Florida coastline with winds up to 150 miles per hour.
The very unusual attribute of Charley was the size of the eye. Little tiny eye. It really made the system more like a tornado than a hurricane, very much like a figure skater bringing the arms in and spinning faster. That's what made the winds so fast, but not over a very large area.
The maximum winds extended out only 7 miles from the center. But if you were in that path, you were in big trouble. Melissa Baldwin was a manager at a hotel right on Charlotte Harbor in Punta Gorda and witnessed Charley's fury firsthand.
There was a lot of screaming because of what it actually, that's one sound that I'll never forget. The actual wind, it was like a train coming through that building. The whole front of the hotel, the awnings fell onto the guest cars and also employees' cars. Power lines were down. There was a lot of windows that were broken.
The experience left Baldwin unable to speak for 2 weeks after the hurricane.
We built our top 10 list on the strength of the storm and the cost of the storm. In modern times, we haven't had many Category 4 storms coming ashore. Because we have that confluence of cost and strength, it just edged into the top 10, just past many great hurricanes of the past.
After landfall, Charley continued to wreak havoc as it traversed the central Florida peninsula, going over Orlando and maintaining hurricane intensity as the center moved off the northeast coast near Daytona Beach. Damage in the U.S. was estimated around $15 billion. Punta Gorda was ground zero for Charley. That's where experienced storm chaser Jim Edds found himself as it was barreling in, with nowhere to hide.
I settled on the downwind side of an eye doctor's office, and it was all mayhem. It was like somebody taking the town and sending it through a big grinder and then blowing it right by me. The first real scary moment is a big old piece of sheet metal comes flying overhead and crashes in the building across the street. I'm going like, wow, you don't want to get out in that, because if you went out into that, you were going to get hit by something and you were going to die. It was crazy. I saw a roof blowing down the street. I saw the sign across the street get blown out. I look at that video and I go like, I hope I never get in that position again. It's too scary. I thought I was an experienced hurricane chaser. I had been in 1s, 2s, and 3s, and you get kind of cocky. You go, yeah, I got this wired. But until you've seen something like a strong 4, you don't know what you're getting into. In Charley, I felt like I was not going to make it out of there, that that's how I was going to die, and that was a bad feeling.
Amazing footage, and amazingly, only 10 people were killed in the U.S. by Charley. But that's not the case for our next entry, which was the deadliest to ever hit the Northeast. At number 9, the Great New England Hurricane of 1938.
People
really believed hurricanes did not come to New England. And children remember asking their parents if they'd hear of a typhoon or hurricane, and someone would say, "Don't worry about it, dear. They don't come to New England."
But on September 21st, 1938, a Category 3 roared across Long Island and into New England with catastrophic results.
First of all, people didn't know it was coming. They didn't even put the warning up until after the center had already come ashore by about an hour and a half. Second of all, because it was moving so fast, it maintained much more strength than storms normally do when they get that far in the northeast.
The 1938 hurricane is one of the benchmark weather events in the history of the Northeast United States because of the speed and ferocity with which it came in and the amount of loss of life and destruction that it caused.
It was responsible for nearly 600 deaths and 1,700 injuries. Almost 9,000 buildings were destroyed, along with over 2,600 boats.
The same country clubs where just weeks before at Labor Day there had been wonderful end-of-summer dances became the places where they took the bodies, and they became the morgues.
Providence, Rhode Island experienced sustained winds of 100 miles per hour with gusts to 125. Across southern New England, there was extensive damage to roofs, trees, and crops. Widespread power outages lasted several weeks in some areas. Downed power lines resulted in disastrous fires in New London and Mystic, Connecticut.
This hurricane not only had strong winds that caused widespread swaths of damage, but it also had storm surge of tremendous magnitude and gigantic waves on top of that.
The center made landfall at the time of astronomical high tide. So you had those waves on top of the storm surge up to 15 feet. Downtown Providence was submerged under a storm tide of almost 20 feet during rush hour.
It was a terrible situation. You had people drowning in the streets. People didn't know where their loved ones were. People at home didn't know if anyone was going to come home. Some can't swim and don't make it. They're never seen again.
The 1938 hurricane is one of the worst case hurricane scenarios that we have on the coastline because it affects such a populated area in such a big way. And all these places are so much more populated and there's so much more wealth today than there was in 1938 that we're talking about one of the top storms in terms of the cost if it were to happen again.
Coming up on our countdown of the top 10 worst hurricanes.
Goodness gracious!
Another storm that ravaged the Northeast with a wallop of water.
A wave came through and just broke down the back door, and the house started filling up with water.
And later, the 3 catastrophic Cat 5s that made landfall in the U.S. during the 20th century.
Shopping online is as easy as it gets. Wouldn't it be great if hiring plumbers, carpenters, and even piano tuners were just as simple? Thanks to Angie's List, now it is. We've made hiring anyone from a handyman to a dog walker as simple as a few clicks. Buy their services directly at angieslist.com. No more calling around, no more hassles. Start shopping from a list of top-rated providers today.
Angie's List is revolutionizing local service again. Visit angieslist.com today.
Take a deep breath in and exhale. And a gentle wave-like motion. Liberate your spine. And reach. Toes blossoming.
Not that great at yoga.
Yeah, but when I slipped a disc, he paid my claim in just 4 days.
4 days?
Yep.
Find out how fast Aflac can pay you at Aflac.com. From restoring damage in just one room to an entire building, turn to the cleanup team that's here in your community and here to help at 1-800-SERVE-PRO, like it never even happened.
We don't sit idle, wondering how we're going to build a better truck. We get out there and walk a mile, thousands of miles, in the footsteps of the guys we build trucks for. The groundbreaking Ram Heavy Duty, with 30,000 pounds of towing and 850 pound-feet of torque.
Sonic has like every slush flavor someone could ever want.
That's right. This is basically slush headquarters.
Where sour blue raspberry plans world domination.
What?
What? Get colorful with new Sonic Slushes, now available with Nerds Candy. This is how you Sonic.
A full evacuation could take them 44 hours. We reveal another of America's 5 most dangerous hurricane cities tomorrow morning on AMHQ on the Weather Channel.
Welcome back to our countdown of the top 10 worst hurricanes. At number 10, Charley, which was the strongest to make landfall in America this century. Number 9, the Great New England Hurricane of 1938, which is also referred to as the Long Island Express. Our next hurricane whacked the Northeast as well and was the second costliest in U.S. history. It affected 24 states, including the entire eastern seaboard, and was so monstrous it became known as a superstorm. At number 8, Sandy.
A lot of us here at the Weather Channel have just been stunned.
No storms like this in the record book.
This is going to be something that's going to shut down the Northeast.
We are talking about a monster storm.
It's coming in big, and it's coming in strong.
This is really just staggering.
It looks like it's out of a movie.
What we think we're going to see is the worst storm ever in some locations.
Sandy wasn't a very intense hurricane, but it was an extremely large hurricane. In fact, it was the largest hurricane that we've ever measured. It was about a third the size of the United States.
Because it was so big, it was moving a tremendous amount of water toward the coast. That had two effects. One was the water had a tremendous amount of power, so it got pushed up 15 feet high or so against the New Jersey coastline, into New York Harbor, up the Hudson, up the various rivers. The other was it was over 500 miles across that it was pushing water. So that was so much coastline affected that when you added up all the effects, you ended up with the second most expensive storm in U.S. history.
Damage estimates from Sandy amounted to at least $50 billion in the U.S. 650,000 houses were damaged or destroyed, and about 8.5 million lost power. The New York City subway system suffered extensively due to storm surge flooding, and the New York Stock Exchange was subjected to a historic 2-day shutdown.
Two things made Sandy so unique. One, the way it was the ultimate hybrid storm, a hurricane within a gigantic nor'easter, and two, the track that it took, hooking directly back toward the New Jersey coast, which is unprecedented in the known historical record.
Superstorm Sandy made landfall on October 29, 2012 as a post-tropical cyclone with hurricane-force winds. It caused 147 direct deaths, 72 in the U.S., with 41 of those due to the storm surge.
Even though catastrophic hurricanes are relatively infrequent in the Northeast, Sandy demonstrated that, in fact, they can happen. They have in the past, happened with Sandy, could happen again in the future.
During Sandy, the highest water level found in New York was over 8 feet on Staten Island. That's where a couple found themselves face to face with the incredible power of storm surge as they tried to get out of their home.
A wave came through and just broke down the back door, and the house started filling up with water, and we couldn't open the door. So we were trapped in the house, and there was just 2 small windows in the front. And Bill kind of pushed me through one.
Once she had gotten through, I handed her 2 cats. I says, you know, just go, just swim.
And he said, swim as fast as you can. Tell my boys I love them. He was trapped in the house.
And at one point I had said to myself, you know, I'm gonna die here. I gotta figure out a way out. So when I had handed it the cats and she had gone, I just said that was the only way I can figure I can get out was that opening, and I had just started elbowing the frame, and the frame of the window had popped out. It gave me enough to get through the window.
Bill left the remaining 7 cats as high as he could in the house and headed up the street.
When you got into the street, the water was even higher, and I was about like maybe chin high, and I was trying to keep my head afloat. There was a point when the current was coming so hard that I didn't even see houses. I thought I was being pulled. It felt like I was being pulled back into the ocean.
I couldn't hold myself up, and my cats started clawing on me, and I had to let one of them go. And then started swimming as fast as I can.
Bill was able to swim through debris-littered water to higher ground, all the while not knowing where Kim was.
I saw a house with candle lights, I guess it was, and I just started screaming for help. And I swam through a garage door with one of my cats in my arms, and there was family upstairs, and they had helped me up. My face was cut open, I was bleeding. I didn't know where Bill was. My cat died in my arms, and the police officer drove me to my mother's house a couple of towns away, where I just laid in bed and cried in my mother's arms. A couple of hours later, Bill came through the door, and it was just like I thought I was dreaming. I was just so happy that he made it.
But the beachfront bungalow that Kim had rented for the past 15 years would no longer be considered home.
Maybe about 3 feet of the corner from the front of the house was standing. The rest of the house was just demolished. It was gone.
And none of Kim's cats survived the surge from Sandy.
It cost them their lives by me not leaving that day. And I can never get them back, and it's a regret I'll always have. I miss them terribly. They're my little babies.
An incredible example of just how damaging water can be, and an amazing story of survival. Just ahead on the top 10 worst hurricanes, the most intense hurricane on record to hit the U.S.
People that survived clung on to tops of palm trees.
And later, the deadliest natural disaster in U.S. history.
That's one of our photographer's vans out there. You can see that is now seeing water halfway up to the window.
Currently in our area, 86 degrees under partly cloudy skies. Tonight, a few passing clouds, otherwise generally clear. Chance of a shower or thunderstorm through the evening. Low 78. Tuesday, thunderstorms developing in the afternoon. High 91. Chance of rain 50%. Here's our 7-day outlook.
When your house loses power, it can be tough for your family. But not if your family has a Kohler generator. Restores power automatically in as little as 10 seconds and is backed by a 5-year limited warranty. Kohler generators. Keep your family flowing.
When the power goes out, you'll go on. Contact your Kohler Generators dealer today.
It's Monday, a brand new start with CenturyLink's visionary cloud infrastructure and custom communication solutions. Your business is more reliable, secure, and agile. CenturyLink, your link to what's next.
All cars are racing against time. Some are just doing better than others. Right now, get 25% off Firestone Affinity Touring Tires at Firestone Complete Auto Care. Whatever you drive, drive a Firestone.
Imagine the luxury of not being here. The power you want with the fuel economy you dream of. Performance with a conscience. This is Volvo, innovating for you.
I heard you have a tough clog.
I only have 10 minutes.
I only need 7.
If you struggle with back pain, you have the power to turn it off with this.
New Smart Relief from Icy Hot. Turn on relaxing pulses that quickly block even chronic back pain. It's wireless, reusable, and easy to use.
Turn on Smart Relief, and turn off pain.
For diarrhea, you take Kaopectate. But for heartburn, gas, indigestion, upset stomach, or nausea, you also take Kaopectate. Kaopectate caplets, like our liquid, relieve diarrhea and soothe your stomach for relief of all those symptoms. Kaopectate, one and done.
Now through Tuesday, don't miss the ultimate sofa sale at Rooms to Go and understand it really is the ultimate chance to save because every Rooms to Go sofa without exception is on sale. Get unbeatable savings on plush leather sofas, reclining sofas, sleeper sofas, sectionals, and fabric sofas. Any sofa you see has been reduced to a shocking low price. Remember, opportunities like this don't happen every day. So shop the ultimate sofa sale at Rooms to Go now through Tuesday. Every sofa is on sale.
Yours for $19. And Ray-Ban sunglasses for just $85.
We're counting down the top 10 worst hurricanes. So far, we've brought you Charlie, the last Cat 4 or higher to hit the U.S. At number 9, the second costliest storm to strike New England, followed by Sandy, which was the second costliest hurricane in U.S. history. We all know that hurricanes are powerful. But which one was the most intense to ever make landfall in the U.S.? That belongs to the 1935 Labor Day hurricane, which is number 7 on our countdown of the worst. It was the first of only 3 hurricanes that have made landfall in the U.S. as a Category 5. The storm blasted the middle part of the Florida Keys with estimated 185 mile per hour sustained winds. It holds the record of having the lowest minimum central pressure measured on land, which is consistent with it being the strongest hurricane to hit the U.S.
Until something happens that is more extreme, more unbelievable, the 1935 Labor Day hurricane goes in the record book as the number 1 storm ever to hit the U.S. in terms of power.
But it wasn't just the wind. Storm surge of approximately 18 to 20 feet swept over the island, demolishing most of the buildings in the area near today's Isla Mirada. Over 400 people died, most of them World War I Army veterans who were building an overseas bridge. A train was sent there from Miami to rescue them, and the engineer was determined to get there. But the storm got there first.
Even as the water was coming over the tracks, he kept the train coming. And so as it arrived at the station where these people could get on, they started to get on the train, and then the massive storm surge came in and swept the train and everything but the locomotive off into the water, into the mud, and people were just swept away.
The railroad was destroyed and never rebuilt. Within a few years, the overseas highway that the Army vets were working on was completed and links Key West to the mainland today. Just off US 1 in Isla Mirada, a memorial was built to honor the hundreds of veterans and local citizens who died in the hurricane.
A lot of the people who were lost in the Keys during the 35 hurricane were washed away. They actually found some of the bodies in Florida Bay and in the Everglades across at the southern end of the Florida Peninsula. There are some reports, I don't know how true they are, that some people may have been sandblasted to death. The winds were so strong that the sand may have literally abraded the skin off of people.
It's often called Florida's forgotten storm, even though it's the second deadliest cyclone in the history of the United States. At number 6, the 1928 Okeechobee hurricane. It packed winds up to 145 miles per hour as it slammed into West Palm Beach, decimating the city, which had been founded only 34 years earlier. More than 1,700 homes were destroyed, and in today's dollars, exacted $16 billion in damage.
And then it hit Lake Okeechobee. And Lake Okeechobee was this massive body of water. It's really like an inland sea. So storm surge was created just like it's created in the ocean or in the Gulf, and that overwhelmed the little levee at the south end of the lake.
When the storm passed, you had very, very strong winds pushing water from north to south along the lake, and that flooded the southern part of the lake, Belle Glade area, where they had a poorly constructed dike at the time. And that flooding, 10 feet of water, that's what resulted in the loss of life.
It's really impossible to say how many people actually died, but we know it's probably upwards of 3,000 or more. And about 3/4 of those were migrant farm workers, many of whom were never found, and many others buried in mass graves.
That storm surge just pushed in over top of these people where they were living, pushed their houses into one another, and swept them away into the mud and the farm fields.
It's often called the forgotten storm because so few people are aware of the exorbitant number of deaths and massive destruction. And officials didn't accurately document the devastation for future generations. Also, the majority of those that died were black migrant workers, and in the racial climate of the times, didn't get the same recognition or attention as if they had been white. We are halfway home in our countdown, but the worst is still to come, including the 2 hurricanes with the highest recorded storm surges ever to hit the U.S.
Well, I don't think I've ever known terror like that. That is absolutely the most terrified that I have ever been, and I think anybody that was in it would say that.
Not all toothbrushes are created equal. Oral-B toothbrushes are engineered with end-rounded bristles so brushing doesn't scratch gums, and angled perfectly to remove 90% of plaque for a healthier smile. Trust the brand more dentists and hygienists use. Oral-B.
You can search for flight deals until you get really frustrated. Or use Kayak to search hundreds of travel sites to find the best deal in seconds. Kayak. Search one and done.
To you, they're more than just a pet, so protect them with K9 Advantix 2. Its broad-spectrum protection kills fleas, ticks, and mosquitoes, too. K9 Advantix 2, for the love of dogs.
Behold a beauty revolution.
Radiance.
The new paint studio at Ace.
Oh, snap.
Featuring the #1 rated label in semi-gloss paint, Clark & Kensington.
That's longhand for awesome. Ace is a place to help the hardware folks. Helpful is beautiful.
Discover Card.
Hey, I heard you guys can help me with fraud protection.
Yeah, we help with fraud protection. We monitor every purchase every day and alert you if anything looks unusual.
Wow. You're really looking out for us.
We are. And if there are unauthorized purchases on your Discover Card, you're never held responsible.
Just to be clear, you are saying frog protection, right?
Yeah, fraud protection.
Frog protection.
Fraud protection.
Frog.
Fraud.
Frog.
Fraud.
I think we're on the same page.
We're totally on the same page.
At Discover, we treat you like you'd treat you. Fraud protection. Get it at discover.com.
Ours is a world of passengers. The red eyes.
I'm really tired.
The transfers.
Well, that's kid number 3.
The co-pilots. All sitting, trusting, waiting for a safe arrival. Introducing the all-new Subaru Legacy, designed to help the driver and you care for the passenger in them. The Subaru Legacy. It's not just a sedan, it's a Subaru.
You're finally here. Long way from the Sandlot. First game in the majors? You don't know ARP, because this family is enjoying a cross-country baseball stadium trip they planned online at AARP Travel. It's where your journey begins with inspiration, planning, booking, and hot travel tips from real pros. If you don't think seize the trip when you think AARP, then you don't know ARP. Find more surprising possibilities and get to know us at aarp.org/possibilities.
Go back to class with confidence. Right now at VisionWorks, buy one complete pair of glasses and get another pair free. Any frames, any lenses. Find more than a pair of glasses. Find a better you. VisionWorks.
We're to the halfway point of our countdown of the top 10 worst hurricanes. We started with Cat 4 Charlie in 2004. 9 is the Great New England Hurricane of 1938. That's followed by Superstorm Sandy, which also hammered the Northeast. 7 is the 1935 Labor Day hurricane, which is the strongest on record to strike the U.S. That's followed by the second deadliest, the 1928 Okeechobee hurricane. Our next selection is the second of 3 catastrophic Cat 5s to make landfall in the U.S. At number 5, Hurricane Camille. Winds up to 175 miles per hour. Tides nearly 25 feet above normal. A crushing combination for anyone living along the Mississippi coast when Camille made landfall on August 17, 1969.
It's 10 o'clock in Biloxi now, and the eye of the storm is still over 2 hours away. The wind is so strong one can hardly stand up in it.
Camille is one of the great storms to ever hit the Gulf Coast. It's the only Category 5 storm to hit in the northern Gulf, and it's a very unusual event for that to happen.
It was a very, very strong, very intense hurricane. And one thing we know is that stronger storms can produce a higher storm surge, and Camille produced one of the highest storm surges we've ever seen.
I thought it was the worst thing in the world that I had ever encountered until I met Katrina.
Peak storm surge was up to 24 feet. Only Katrina had a higher surge in the U.S.
I think this was another case that people just couldn't believe if you're in some pretty sturdy building on the other side of the highway from the Gulf of Mexico, that the Gulf could actually come up 20 feet or more and plow all the way inland and take your building away.
A cubic yard of water weighs 1,728 pounds, and when that hits, it's like something that weighs that much hitting you. People think this water's soft. It's not soft, especially when it's coming in rolling like that, and it'll batter anything down. You know, all you got to do is look at what was left of the coast when they got through battering them.
Camille killed over 250 people and caused $1.4 billion in damage, which would translate to about $9 billion today.
It was like 68 square miles of total destruction. 5,556 homes destroyed, a great many more terribly damaged, and the whole Richelieu apartment went down over in Pass Christian. One of the great myths of the storm is that 24 people died in the hurricane party at Richelieu, and that's just not true.
Charles Sullivan is the author of Hurricanes of the Mississippi Gulf Coast, an archivist at Mississippi Gulf Coast Community College. He was a National Guardsman during Camille and got trapped with his crew in a barn. Their amphibious vehicle was no match for the overwhelming surge.
Well, we're up in the ceiling and we can't get out because the snout of the thing is above the door. Well, I don't think I've ever known terror like that. I mean, that is absolutely the most terrified that I have ever been, and I think anybody that was in it would say that.
Rescue Blue and White, come home. All rescue units, come home.
There's a whole part of the Camille catastrophe which is not as well known as the landfall on the coast of Mississippi, and that is that days later, its moisture-laden remnants moving across West Virginia and Virginia created these thunderstorms with torrential downpours, moving slowly, dumping huge amounts of rain, and producing a disastrous flash flood there.
Over 150 people died in Virginia from the mountain slides and flooding.
People in Virginia were surprised by Camille. Overnight, the circulation came out of Kentucky and moved to the east. They weren't expecting that. And then the moisture interacted with the mountains. It was like Mother Nature took a huge bucket of water and just dumped it on Nelson County there in the central part of Western Virginia.
And my house was under 12 feet of water. And I've seen about all my family has had destruction of their homes. And I hope I never see nothing like this again.
We continue our countdown with what was the costliest storm on record before Katrina, and it could have been much, much worse. At number 4, the most recent Cat 5 to hit our shores, Hurricane Andrew.
We're live in the Weather Channel Forecast Center. It's August 24th, 1992. History in the making as Hurricane Andrew is now making landfall in South Florida.
Andrew's eye wall was one of the most intense we've ever observed on radar. And it was just like this wind machine, circular saw slicing across South Florida.
But while we had a record surge, the surge damage did not penetrate very far from the coast. If you look at Homestead and Florida City and see all these houses that were reduced to matchsticks and all these shopping centers that were reduced to rubble, that is almost exclusively wind damage.
The compact cyclone, initially rated a Category 4, was later upgraded to a 5 with sustained wind at 165 miles per hour. It shredded the southern suburbs of Miami. About 80% of the city of Homestead was destroyed, including its Air Force Base.
It looked like a nuclear bomb had gone off. The devastation was that complete. Buildings flattened,
airplanes tossed over, hangar doors pushed in.
The base wouldn't open again for 2 years. By then, about 40% of the town's population had moved away. Andrew killed 15 people in Florida and caused $26.5 billion in damage. It's estimated that 2,600 homes were destroyed, leaving 175,000 homeless. But it could have been much worse.
If Hurricane Andrew had hit downtown Miami, that would have meant that it hit South Beach, it hit the port, it hit the airport, it hit the Coral Gables business district. The city would likely not be the city it is today if that had happened.
Brian Norcross is our senior hurricane specialist here at the Weather Channel. At the time, he was chief meteorologist at WTVJ in Miami and spent 23 consecutive hours on the air helping the community get through it.
The eye is just coming ashore there in Cutler Ridge. We have no Miami radar, so we can forget the Miami radar. It fell off the building.
About 6 hours before the hurricane made landfall, it was clear to me that this was going to be essentially the worst case that we could face, and that we were going to have to think of what can people do as a final resort, just the maximum amount of protection that they can get inside their home. And so an idea came to me that they should get a mattress off the bed.
Do not think that you are in any way safe if you have not hunkered down and got that mattress over you, friends. This is the time to do it.
The other thing that happened, though, is I thought, wow, we're asking people to take action, and we're sitting here at the anchor desk, and we're kind of worried about our roof as well. So we made plans about an hour before landfall to move off the set into a storage area right off the studio.
We can hear it clearly. I know you folks at home can't hear it, but clearly we can hear it outside. Let me see. I'm all wireless. I'll tell you what, maybe, Raphael, you could find a couple batteries.
We are, Brian. We're all set. We're all set. I'll tell you what, this is the safest spot, without a doubt.
I don't know how many people, hundreds, thousands of people told me after the fact that that's what triggered them to move, because they said, oh my God, if they're leaving where they are, I guess this really is serious. We better take action, and it turned out to be one of the best things I ever did.
Brian's voice of reason during Hurricane Andrew no doubt saved lives, and his expertise continues to save lives today. But there's still 3 more in our countdown, including the deadliest natural disaster in U.S. history.
And this wall of debris was filled with pieces of houses, furniture, pianos, pots, pans, cats, dogs, and people.
And the costliest hurricane to strike our shores. Which hurricane will be the worst of all time?
Remember the hassle of vacuuming before the Dyson DC59 Motorhead? Before our direct drive cleaner head increased brush power to outclean the 5 best-selling full-size vacuums across carpets and hard floors without the hassle of a cord.
So, Duke, what do you think for our new Bush's Baked Beans video game?
I think I'm getting the hang of it.
Now, roll that beautiful bean footage.
Yes! Bush's Baked Beans are slow-cooked according to our secret family recipe for big flavor. Enjoy Bush's Baked Beans.
How about over there?
What does it mean to have an unlimited mileage warranty on a certified pre-owned Mercedes-Benz? What does it mean to drive as far as you want for up to 3 years and be covered? It means your odometer is there to record the memories. During the Mercedes-Benz Certified Pre-Owned Sales event, now through September 2nd, you'll get complimentary prepaid maintenance and may qualify for a 2-month payment credit, only at your authorized Mercedes-Benz dealer.
The NFL has agreed to a settlement benefiting retired players, their families, and representatives relating to brain injuries. If approved, the multi-million-dollar settlement will provide compensation, baseline medical exams, and other benefits. Valid claims for conditions such as ALS, Alzheimer's, Parkinson's, dementia, and other diagnoses are guaranteed to be paid during the 65-year settlement. If you did not receive an information package, call 855-887-3485 or go to NFLconcussionsettlement.com.
You know what I love, America? Fine barbecue, good times, and zero heartburn. And that's why I take private sets OTC each morning for my frequent heartburn. Because it gives me zero heartburn.
Prilosec OTC.
the #1 doctor-recommended frequent heartburn medicine for 9 straight years.
You can't beat zero heartburn.
Prilosec OTC, 1 pill each morning, 24 hours, 0 heartburn.
Want to know how hard it can be to breathe with COPD? It can feel like this. COPD includes chronic bronchitis and emphysema. Spiriva is a once-daily inhaled COPD maintenance treatment that helps open my airways for a full 24 hours. You know, Spiriva helps me breathe easier.
Spiriva Handihaler tiotropium bromide inhalation powder does not replace rescue inhalers for sudden symptoms. Tell your doctor if you have kidney problems, glaucoma, trouble urinating, or an enlarged prostate. These may worsen with Spiriva. Discuss all medicines you take, even eye drops. Stop taking Spiriva and seek immediate medical help if your breathing suddenly worsens, your throat or tongue swells, you get hives, vision changes or eye pain, or problems passing urine. Other side effects include dry mouth and constipation.
Nothing can reverse COPD. Spiriva helps me breathe better.
Does breathing with COPD weigh you down? Don't wait to ask your doctor about Spiriva Handihaler.
I'm Creek Stewart, Weather Channel survival expert. Every Sunday night, we're taking 3 regular guys deep into the woods.
Are you serious?
Where we'll teach them not just to survive,
make fire,
but how to truly live.
Look at this caveman.
Show yourself what you're made of on Weather Channel Survival Sundays. At 9, it's So You Think You'd Survive. Then at 10, Fat Guys in the Woods. Every Sunday night on the Weather Channel.
Are you ready?
Off the couch, into the weather.
We're counting down the top 10 worst hurricanes. We started with Charley in 2004, followed by the 1938 New England juggernaut. At number 8 was Superstorm Sandy. 7, the 1935 Labor Day nightmare in the Florida Keys. 6, the devastating Lake Okeechobee killer. At 5, Camille, that ravaged the Mississippi coast with 30-foot storm tides. And 4, Andrew, the last Cat 5 to hit our country. The next hurricane on our countdown was a Category 4 that pushed Florida into an early start to the Great Depression. At number 3, the 1926 Miami hurricane. In the early 1920s, Miami was the fastest growing city in the U.S. The streets were said to be paved in gold. But the Great Miami Hurricane of 1926 turned the boomtown into a bust.
The 1926 Miami hurricane is the only example we have of a Category 4 hurricane hitting a developed city. And at the time, they thought that this was a worse disaster than the great earthquake of 1906 that devastated San Francisco. It was a big-time disaster in a major American city.
95% of the buildings in the Miami-Fort Lauderdale area were damaged. Winds blew as strong as 140 to 150 miles per hour. A 10-foot storm surge washed across Miami Beach. Water from Biscayne Bay surged over the bayfront, inundating downtown. Major damage stretched along more than 50 miles of the coast.
A lot of people went out in the eye and tried to get to Miami Beach thinking that it was over. And now they're on the causeway. The second half of the storm comes and they get washed off the causeways.
My husband looked up in time to see a huge sign coming at him. He made a V around the post, but it didn't hit him.
When the wind subsided, Miami was devastated. Huge boats were left on city streets. Prestigious oceanfront hotels were turned into sandcastles. Houses and businesses were reduced to rubble. Over 100,000 people lived in the Miami-Fort Lauderdale area in 1926, and about 25% were left homeless.
There's no hurricane in our record book that would be more expensive than the Great Miami Hurricane of 1926 if it were to happen again. There is so much wealth in southeastern Florida that this massive storm affecting two of the most populated counties in the state would put it up in the range of double Hurricane Katrina, something that we've never seen from a single natural disaster.
Over 5 million people currently live in that area impacted by the Great Hurricane of 1926. If the same exact storm happened today, damage could add up to as much as $160 billion or more, far more than any Atlantic hurricane currently on record. Our next hurricane happened over a century ago, but it's still the deadliest natural disaster in American history. At number 2, the 1900 Galveston hurricane. 1900 was a prosperous time for Galveston. Its position on the Gulf of Mexico made it the center of trade and the wealthiest city in Texas. It was dubbed the Wall Street of the Southwest. This barrier island is 30 miles long and 3 miles wide. Its highest elevation was less than 9 feet above sea level. Yet many of the residents believed that storm surge would not be a problem because of the shallow Gulf waters. Then came early September 1900.
Initially, as the storm moved across Cuba and into this extreme southeastern Gulf of Mexico, all the indications were that the storm was going to move north, which would take it into Florida and ultimately up the East Coast.
But it continued moving westward and turned into a Category 4 hurricane, packing winds over 130 miles per hour. With only ship reports and elementary meteorological equipment, the city of Galveston remained largely unaware of this monster bearing down on them.
I don't think we can comprehend the degree of normalcy that prevailed right up to probably almost noontime of the day the storm hit.
Late that afternoon, the island was engulfed by 15 feet of water. 3,500 homes were destroyed.
The waters of the bay had met the waters of the Gulf, and Galveston was no longer an island. It was simply a part of the ocean floor. And this wall of debris was filled with pieces of houses, furniture, pianos, pots, pans, cats, dogs, and people.
It was just this mega, horrible debris field that smelled for months after the storm as more and more bodies were found. It was just hellacious.
There were 37,000 people living in Galveston at the time. Up to 12,000, or almost a third of its population, was killed, making it the deadliest natural disaster in our history.
The 1900 Galveston hurricane was really the hurricane of record for this country. If you put a large population in an area that's prone for storm surge flooding, it's a recipe for disaster.
Amazingly, they got determined to stay there and rebuild the city. So they did two incredible things. The first thing they did was built this big seawall to protect themselves from most hurricanes that come along. The second thing is that they raised the city behind the seawall. They took the buildings that survived, they jacked them up, they put dirt under that, and they created an entirely new city that is much more hurricane resistant.
That seawall took a beating during Hurricane Ike in 2008, but it held up and helped minimize damage in Galveston. Coming up, the culmination of our countdown. Which hurricane will be named the worst ever?
When the storm had passed and I walked outside on that mound of mud, I fell to my knees. All I saw was water.
Currently in our area, 85 degrees under partly cloudy skies. Tonight, mostly clear. Chance of a shower or thunderstorm through the evening. Low 78. Winds south at 5 to 10 miles per hour. Tuesday, thunderstorms developing in the afternoon. High 92. Chance of rain 50%. Here's our 7-day outlook.
Our oath isn't an empty gesture. It's the heart and soul of Terminix Nation. The Terminix Ultimate Protection Guarantee. 100% satisfaction or your money back. Not here, not now, not in my house. Terminix.
What if there was a credit card where the reward was that new car smell and the freedom of the open road? A card that gave you that I'm 16 and just got my first car feeling. Presenting the Buy Power card from Capital One. Redeem earnings toward part or even all of a new Chevrolet, Buick, GMC, or Cadillac with no limits. So every time you use it, you're not just shopping for goods. You're shopping for something great. Learn more at buypowercard.com.
Look younger in 8 weeks. I prefer today. Clairol Age-Defy Color Collection with our best breakthrough gray coverage. Lustrous, radiant color that looks 10 years younger. Today, Age-Defy Color from Clairol.
Oh, no.
Who are you?
Daddy, this is Blair. He booked this room with Priceline Express deals and saved a ton.
I got everything I wanted. I always do. You seem nice.
She's still the one for you. And Cialis for daily use helps you be ready anytime the moment is right. Cialis is also the only daily ED tablet approved to treat symptoms of BPH, like needing to go frequently. Tell your doctor about all your medical conditions and medicines, and ask if your heart is healthy enough for sex. Do not take Cialis if you take nitrates for chest pain, as it may cause an unsafe drop in blood pressure. Do not drink alcohol in excess. Side effects may include headache, upset stomach, delayed backache, or muscle ache. To avoid long-term injury, get medical help right away for an erection lasting more than 4 hours. If you have any sudden decrease or loss in hearing or vision, or any allergic reactions like rash, hives, swelling of the lips, tongue, or throat, or difficulty breathing or swallowing, stop taking Cialis and get medical help right away. Ask your doctor about Cialis for daily use and a free 30-tablet trial.
So we've had a Tempur-Pedic for a while, but now that we have the adjustable base, it's even better.
When I put my feet up on this bed, my stress just goes away.
Go up. Our Tempur-Pedic is the best thing in our house, except for my husband.
Wait, where are you going?
Discover how Tempur-Pedic can move you. And now through September 7th, save up to $500 on a Tempur-Pedic mattress and adjustable base.
Sunday night, the Weather Channel asks, so you think you'd survive raging rapids? So you think you'd survive Sunday night at 9 on the Weather Channel.
Did you know a 10-second test could help your business avoid hours of delay caused by slow internet from the phone company? That's enough time to record a memo.
Idea for sales giveaway.
Return a call. Sign a contract. Pick a tie. Take a break with Mr. Duck. Practice up for the business trip. Fly to Florida. Win an award. Close a deal. Hire an intern. And still have time to spare.
Go to ComcastBusiness.com/check-your-speed. If we can't offer faster speeds or save you money, we'll give you $150. Comcast Business. Built for business.
Can your DVR record all your favorite shows at once?
It only records, I think, 2 shows at a time.
And you can't change a channel.
No, I hate having to make the decision, which one am I going to let go?
With Xfinity, record 4 shows at the same time and watch a 5th live.
This is amazing.
So now everything's basically on your schedule.
I don't have to miss any shows.
You can get used to this, right?
I'm already used to it.
Never miss your favorites. Upgrade to an Xfinity X1 Triple Play from Comcast and save when you bundle TV, internet, and voice. See for yourself. Call 1-800-XFINITY today.
They just want to make sure that their dog and possibly their home is taken care of.
New to Rover, get 1 night free at rover.com/TV.
Welcome back to the top 10 worst hurricanes. We've been through 9, and as expected, Florida leads the way with 5 on our list. Charlie, the 1935 Labor Day hurricane, 1928 Okeechobee, Andrew, and the 1926 Miami disaster. Even 2 hurricanes from the Northeast made our countdown. The 1938 Great New England Hurricane and Superstorm Sandy. And no doubt you can probably guess what's next. A catastrophe so great, it sent shockwaves around the world and brought our nation to its knees. The #1 worst hurricane is Katrina.
Katrina.
It's going to get a lot worse before it gets better.
At times, it's hard to see more than maybe a few yards because there's so much water in the air.
We are dealing with the eye wall of Hurricane Katrina. Palm limbs like that down on power lines. Everyone knows the story of Katrina in the U.S. The costliest, $108 billion. Katrina. The 3rd deadliest, over 1,800.
Katrina.
And the highest storm surge, as high as 28 feet in coastal Mississippi.
The storm surge that Hurricane Katrina produced was about a 1 in 400 year storm surge event, but that doesn't mean that we couldn't see that again in our lifetime.
That's one of our photographer's vans out there. You can see that is now seeing water halfway up to the windows.
A couple of days before the storm hit, I said, this is the catastrophe of our time.
Katrina taught us that there can still be death tolls of more than 1,000 people in the United States, even with today's modern technology.
New Orleans had a flood, we had a hurricane.
I do think New Orleans captured a whole lot more attention than the Gulf Coast did, simply because it's a great city. Although built in the worst place you could build one, what it is a great city in a mud hole. It should never have been there.
Katrina taught us that the worst can happen, right? You can talk about these dire situations and this confluence of events that it takes for New Orleans to go underwater, or for really bad things to happen in New York City or in Miami or in Tampa. And sometimes they do.
We all saw the horrifying images from Katrina, but unless you witnessed it firsthand, you probably can't imagine what people went through. Now, years later, we visited with two of the iconic figures of the Gulf Coast. President of Plaquemines Parish in Louisiana, Billy Nungesser, and Bobby Mahoney, owner of the famous Mary Mahoney's restaurant, which has been serving locals and celebrities for over 50 years in Biloxi, Mississippi.
Katrina's something you didn't want to be in the way of, you know. Somebody asked me, why did I stay here for Katrina? I said, we thought Camille was the mother of all storms, till we found out storms don't have mothers.
Katrina was New Orleans' worst nightmare. It was a storm that flooded the city and surrounding parishes, and we weren't prepared for it. I was a private citizen then. I rode out the storm 14 miles from the eye on a mound of mud that I built by digging a lake right next to the Mississippi River. I rescued 30 people, so we were pretty much on our own down in South Plaquemines for many weeks. I decided to run for office because of the lack of response by public officials in my area.
Biloxi was like a war zone, right? Especially right here by the water. You know, anything the water got to, it was just a sight to see.
When the storm had passed and I walked outside on that mound of mud, I fell to my knees. All I saw was water.
The hurricane's coming, you know, especially if you're around water. You know, you need to get away from it, because that Mother Nature don't have any gold standards it can't overcome.
We know we're going to see another Katrina one day. And as we prepare and minimize those chances, we need to continue to educate the public on the risk, because as the flood protection gets better, people are less likely to leave, and that's a mistake to stay.
After the storm, emotionally, you know, Biloxi was down probably for about 2 to 3 months, and then after that we just got it together and just started trying to rebuild as quick as we could. And thank God the federal government was there to come help us, because they came in big time.
The emotions and just the threat of hurricane season and the memories from Katrina gives you a little unsettled feeling in your stomach. And I sleep a little lighter during hurricane season. Katrina will forever be in everybody's mind from the New Orleans area as the worst storm ever. Hopefully, when we see that next storm, we'll be better prepared and we'll see less damage and less loss of life. But it's something that'll take many more years before we forget what Katrina brought to New Orleans.
That's it for our countdown of the top 10 worst hurricanes. You know, over half the American population now lives within 50 miles from the coast. And recent disasters like Katrina and Sandy prove that we could be just one hurricane away from adding another one to our list. I'm meteorologist Jim Cantore. Thanks for watching.
Superstorm Sandy, the largest tropical system ever recorded in the Atlantic. And the New Jersey shore is caught in the bullseye.
Oh, we're getting ready to die. Oh, keep up.
Follow the path of destruction from inside the storm, block by block and minute by minute.
This hurricane, one for the record books, has basically rearranged the Jersey shore.
From the battered shores of Seaside Heights.
Just a waterfall coming on top of us. We knew we were in deep, deep, deep trouble.
To the mangled, flood-ravaged streets on the mainland.
I started yelling into all these black holes. I just knew that we had lost Kathy.
To the frigid bay, where a man struggles to survive after a monstrous wave sucks him out to sea.
I'm screaming help at the top of my lungs, and I knew there's nobody here for me.
Experience the most dangerous hurricanes on the planet, as if you were there, caught in the eye of the storm. This is Hurricane 360. October 29th, 2012, 7 p.m. The town of Seaside Heights on the New Jersey shore braces for an approaching tropical storm. Police Chief Thomas Boyd and Fire Chief Frank Samarelli drive onto the boardwalk to assess the situation.
We went up on the boardwalk and we're looking at the pier, and as we're filming, a wave came up underneath us and just picked up the boardwalk and dropped us.
Oh, came up. Oh, we're getting ready to die. We're getting out of here.
We were scared. The pier had already started coming apart. We knew we were in deep, deep, deep trouble.
127 miles of the New Jersey shoreline lie in the path of one of the most destructive storms in U.S. history.
Sandy is getting bigger and bigger. This monstrous wind machine is going to push water ashore at levels that we haven't seen in decades.
Typically, hurricanes that move this far north lose steam and turn out to sea. But Sandy grows to almost 1,000 miles wide, the largest Atlantic hurricane ever recorded. A high-pressure system over Greenland, combined with a low-pressure system from the northeast, draws it westward. As it approaches the coast, Hurricane Sandy morphs into a superstorm.
It was like somebody was driving it to make that left turn and just slam into us.
Many underestimate Sandy's strength and refuse to evacuate. However, the storm is not only hitting at high tide, but there's a full moon. The gravitational pull of the moon on the ocean can increase the tidal height by 20% or higher. It all adds up to a recipe for disaster. Seaside Heights, New Jersey, 7 p.m. This oceanside community, made famous by the reality TV series Jersey Shore, is located on the Barnegat Peninsula, a narrow 30-mile-long spit of land that separates the bay from the Atlantic Ocean.
It's gone from bad to worse tonight on the Jersey Shore. Look at the surge. Just look at the force of the water. It's like a raging river.
8 p.m. The storm surge intensifies as high tide approaches. Monstrous waves reaching 15 to 20 feet and propelled by hurricane-force gusts slam into the East Coast. As the storm hits Seaside Heights, Boyd and Samarelli search for stranded residents as a torrent of water cascades down the streets.
We hear some young guy yelling and he's screaming, help, help. We look up and there he is in a tree.
Their truck can't make it across the river of seawater to rescue him.
I said, hey, pal, we can't come get you. You got to swim to us. So he was doggy paddling over to us, got him in the back of the truck.
Samarelli tries to maintain control of the vehicle as a wall of debris-choked water hits them head-on.
I see one lifeguard boat go by, and I see another lifeguard boat go by. Then I see a lifeguard stand come at us, and that's when it just hit us. And a piece of the bulwark actually broke through and it hit the front of that truck like a plow, and it wasn't letting us go anywhere. The truck was losing traction, and it's just like a waterfall coming on top of us. So now we're trying to plow through the Atlantic Ocean, which everybody knows you're not going to be able to do.
The surging water lifts the truck off the ground and sweeps it down the street.
And we started going backwards, and at the same time, the poor kid that's in the back of the truck is screaming, I should have stayed in the bleeping tree. You're going to kill me. He thought he was going to die, because we were in a bad way. Finally, it brought us all the way back to the end of a block down, and the water subsided. We just got lucky.
A few miles to the north of Seaside Heights, on Normandy Beach, Jack Buzzy and his girlfriend Melissa Griffith are retrieving valuable possessions from their basement when they hear the roar of an ocean wave.
I hear something and it makes me look up.
And all of a sudden, all of the windows burst. Water rushed in, and I dropped whatever I was holding, and I heard Jack yelling. I just took off across the basement, and I remember reaching the top of the stairs, and the water was right at my heels.
Melissa just made it up the stairs, and I made it about 3/4 of the way up the stairs. The water flooded to 7.5 feet in about 30 seconds.
As Jack and Melissa retreat to the second floor, they feel the house rumble and shake as monstrous waves and piercing wind hammer away at it.
The phone systems were going down, and all the transformers in the neighborhood were all exploding. We were getting text messages, people were trapped, and they were a lot worse off than we were.
Jack receives a frantic text message from the brother of his neighbor, Kathy. A row of oceanfront homes collapsed on top of hers. She's now trapped.
The bottom of the house completely collapsed, and she rode the top of the house down, and then the other houses started pushing on that house.
I saw Jack putting on his foul weather gear, and I saw him getting extra rope. My heart started racing, so I realized that he was going out into the rising water.
I could see a good part of her house looked like it was still standing. I went up and I was knocking on this door, but the only thing that was there was the door and a wall. So beyond it, that part of the house was basically imploded. It was gone.
Across Barnegat Bay, in Toms River, 29-year-old Mike Guyon stays behind at his grandparents' oceanfront home on Bayview Drive after they evacuate. He's trying to save it from flooding, but he's losing the fight.
I'm looking downstairs. I see that the water is already 6 feet high, so I knew the whole downstairs of the house was gone. You could see the waves crashing on the windows. I was freaking out at that point, and then all of a sudden I heard a noise, and then the back roof of the house collapsed. So I thought, I don't want to get crushed in this house.
Mike decides he must try to escape.
I opened up the door, and I immediately got sucked out, and I was holding onto the railing. The water pressure was it was just so strong. I couldn't open up the door to go back in the house.
Mike makes a desperate call to his dad.
I say, I'm not going to make it. And he's screaming at me, what do you mean you're not going to make it? I told him, I'm sorry, Dad, I love you. I can't hold on any longer.
The force of the surging current sweeps him out to sea.
Love OPI color on your nails?
You know I do.
Then why not try it on your walls?
So what?
It's the OPI color palette only from Clark & Kensington.
Tell me more.
Ace now offers the colors of OPI and paint for your home.
Am I dreaming?
Nope. Paint your walls to match your manicure with colors like Can't Find My Checkbook, even Don't Touch My Tutu.
Did she say tutu?
Sure did. It's the OPI color palette exclusively at the Paint Studio at Ace.
Ace is a place for help the hardware folks.
It's always the same dilemma. Who gets the Allstate Safe Driving Bonus Check?
Rock, beat, scissors.
Wife beats rock.
And with 2 checks a year, everyone wins.
Switch today and get 2 safe driving bonus checks a year for driving safely only from Allstate. Call 877-218-2500 now.
Zach really loves his new camera. Problem is, this isn't Zach. It's a friend of a friend who was at Zach's party and stole his camera. But Zach's got it covered with Allstate Renters Insurance.
Protect your valuables for as low as $4 a month when you add renter's insurance to your Allstate auto policy. Call 877-218-2500 now.
What are you doing?
We're switching car insurance.
Why?
Because these guys are the cheapest.
Why?
Good question. Because a cut rate price could mean cut rate protection.
You should listen to this guy.
With Allstate, you get great protection, a great price, plus an agent, and safe drivers can save up to 45%. Call now and see how much you can save.
Just a few more ways Allstate is changing car insurance for good.
Call an Allstate agent and get a quote now.
The powerful and efficient 5.7-liter ME V8 with 22 highway miles per gallon and 395 horsepower.
Come with me now. Come with me now. Come with me now.
How far you take it is entirely up to you. Guts, glory, Ram.
Come with me now.
A full evacuation could take them 44 hours. We reveal another of America's 5 most dangerous hurricane cities tomorrow morning on AMHQ on the Weather Channel. October 29th, 2012, 9 p.m. Superstorm Sandy, by now the largest Atlantic storm ever measured, delivers a devastating punch as it smacks into the New Jersey shore.
We continue to track the winds, the damaging wind gusts around this monster of a storm we're dealing with.
The savage storm cuts a 30-mile-long path of destruction across Barnegat Peninsula and then moves on to the mainland. Massive waves rip houses from their foundations. Cars bob in the floodwaters like bathtub toys. To the west of the peninsula, in the surging waters of Barnegat Bay, Mike Ian fights to stay afloat after being dragged almost a half a mile across the bay.
I knew I was in a life and death situation, but I thought I could swim back to the house, but the current was so strong, it kept on bringing me out further and out further, and by the time you knew it, the house was a blur.
Across the bay on Normandy Beach, Jack Buzzy and his girlfriend Melissa Griffith fear the worst for their neighbor Kathy. The storm has completely demolished Kathy's home. Jack frantically digs through the splintered debris, but finds no sign of Kathy.
I started yelling into all these black holes and feeling around. I just knew that she was in bad shape.
Jack got back to the house, and he said I couldn't find her. And I remember that moment shaking from the inside out, and tears filled my eyes, and I was just frightened that she had perished.
Minutes pass. Then Jack receives a text message relayed by Kathy's brother. She's alive, but she's trapped in a severed section of her home that's been swept down the street by the floodwaters.
A text comes that says, she heard you. She heard you. She's there. You have to go back.
Jack ventures back out into the raging storm to rescue their neighbor.
There was a big rooftop of a building pushed up against the house, so you couldn't see her. And all the power lines were down. So I used the power line like a tow rope and walked up over the roof and then down the other side, and she was standing, and she said, "So glad you're here. I knew you'd come."
I saw them coming back to the house. When she walked in the door, I just teared up and just hugged her, full of emotion.
But Sandy's wrath is far from over. Rising floodwater isn't the only danger. 10 blocks to the west of Normandy Beach, gas lines erupt and are burning homes down to their foundations.
The sky was so bright because this whole fire was fed by 40 or so gas lines that were going off. It was a very bad area.
No longer were we concerned about waves and water. It was fire now. It was like the torches with flames, just burning.
9 p.m. The storm surge punches its way across Barnegat Bay to the mainland. On the corner of Green Island and Bayview Drive, in Toms River, New Jersey, Morgan Reese, a former volunteer firefighter, is watching the Weather Channel when the power goes out.
I looked out the front window and saw the water coming through the holes of the baseboard and started coming pretty quick.
Morgan, his wife, and 2 daughters scramble up to an attic as seawater pours into their home.
We watched slowly Furniture started floating around the inside of the house. That's when the 10-year-old started getting a little bit panicky. The wife was asking me, well, you know, what happens if the water gets up to the attic? How are we going to get out?
Less than a quarter-mile inland on Green Island Road, contractor Mike Mulligan narrowly escapes his home with his wife.
I saw water coming underneath my garage doors, like something out of a movie. And I said, well, I've seen all the TV shows, and I don't want to be one of the people on the roof.
After driving his wife to safety, Mike realizes that he can use one of his construction vehicles to help rescue his neighbors. He revs up his front loader, a tractor with a shovel. It's one of the few vehicles that can make it through the surging floodwaters.
I drove back up to the neighborhood, just basically pulling people out.
Less than a half-mile away on Sunrise Boulevard, Frank Vicendazy takes refuge in his parents' home as a river of seawater rushes down his street.
As the night went on, you can see the water start overflowing. It's up to the first step, and it's up to the second step, up to the third step. So we kept hearing this loud banging noise, and I looked out, and it was this jet ski just smashing into my car. And so I ran out into the water and tied it up to a tree. Everywhere we could see, there was water. We knew everyone was in trouble.
Barnegat Bay, midnight. The storm has moved inland, but sheets of rain continue to fall. Mike Guyon has been treading water for nearly 3 hours and doesn't know how much longer he can hold on.
I'm screaming help at the top of my lungs, and I knew, Mike, there's nobody here for me. There's no rescue. There's no nothing.
Mike struggles against the current, but the distant shore across the dark, frigid bay seems miles away. He wonders if he'll survive the night.
Currently in our area, 85 degrees under partly cloudy skies. Tonight, mostly clear. Chance of a shower or thunderstorm through the evening. Low 78. Winds south at 5 to 10 miles per hour. Tuesday, thunderstorms developing in the afternoon. High 92. Chance of rain 50%. Here's our 7-day outlook.
Joel posts, now that I'm a dad, there is so much more to take with me. I'm gonna need a bigger car. Close call, Joel. Good thing the Honda Summer Clearance event is here, with roomier options like the Honda Pilot and Honda Odyssey, both with rear-view camera and Bluetooth standard. Here you go.
Up here. There he is. Hurry in to get a great deal on a Honda, named Most Trusted Brand by KBB.com. The Honda Summer Clearance event is on now at your Honda dealer.
At Farmers, we make you smarter about your insurance because what you don't know can hurt you. What if you didn't know that taking pictures of your belongings helps when you have a claim? Or that Farmers offers a policy that'll replace your car with a new one if it's totaled within the first 2 model years? And that parking near a street lamp deters thieves. The more you know, the better you can plan for what's ahead. Talk to Farmers and get smarter about your insurance.
We are Farmers. Bum, ba-dum, bum, 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 bum.
Call 1-800-FARMERS and see how much you could save.
19 years ago, we thought, wow, how is there no way to tell the good from the bad? So we gave people the power of the review. And now Angie's List is revolutionizing local service again. You can easily buy and schedule services from top-rated providers. Conveniently stay up to date on progress and effortlessly turn your photos into.
You were ridiculous.
I was the Conga King, and you my island girl. Come on, tell me this isn't the best vacation ever.
Well, that private island was something.
And how about that arrival? A Rolls Royce.
Dining over the water was magical.
Remember that party yesterday?
I remember you.
Well, there's you. Click.
I can't believe you posted that. What's next, Conga King?
You, me, whatever.
The new Sandals Royal Bahamian. Call 1-800-SANDALS.
Now through Tuesday, don't miss the ultimate sofa sale at Rooms to Go and understand it really is the ultimate chance to save because every Rooms to Go sofa without exception is on sale. Get unbeatable savings on plush leather sofas, reclining sofas, sleeper sofas, sectionals, and fabric sofas. Any sofa you see has been reduced to a shocking low price. Remember, opportunities like this don't happen every day. So shop the ultimate sofa sale at Rooms to Go now through Tuesday. Every sofa is on sale.
491-1389 to get a free brochure. 1-800